Before the Avengers assembled, before Iron Man and Thor, there was only one soldier willing to throw himself on a grenade to save others. This is the story of Steve Rogers, the man who went from frail and forgotten to the world's first superhero, Captain America. Welcome back to the channel. The story begins in the shadows of World War II, where power-hungry men seek weapons that could turn the tide of history. Deep in Norway, the ruthless Johan Schmidt, commander of Hydra, storms a church in search of a legendary artifact. Hidden behind a false compartment lies the Tesseract, a cube said to hold the energy of the gods. With the power in his hands, Schmidt executes the guardian of the relic and leaves the village in flames, marking the rise of Hydra's terrifying campaign. Meanwhile, across the ocean in Brooklyn, we meet a man who couldn't be more different. Steve Rogers, frail, asthmatic, and barely over 5 feet tall, dreams of enlisting to fight for his country. But no matter how many times he tries, the army keeps stamping 4F on his application, unfit for duty. Still, Steve refuses to give up. His heart is bigger than his body. At a movie theater, Steve's determination shows when he stands up to a bully mocking the troops. Outmatched and knocked down, he still gets back up, clutching a trash can lid like a shield. His best friend Bucky Barnes steps in to help, reminding Steve he doesn't have to fight every battle alone. But Steve insists it's not about winning, it's about standing up for what's right. That night, Bucky invites Steve to the World Expo before shipping out to war. While Bucky enjoys his last night of freedom, Steve sneaks off for yet another attempt to enlist. This time, fate intervenes. A scientist named Dr. Abraham Erskine overhears Steve's conversation and sees something special, not strength, but courage. Against all odds, Erskine approves Steve for his secret project. While Steve begins his journey, Schmidt continues his own. Assisted by Hydra's brilliant biochemist Arnim Zola, Schmidt experiments with the Tesseract, harnessing its raw cosmic energy to fuel devastating weapons. His ambition grows beyond Hitler's war. He intends to conquer the entire world. Back at camp, Steve is dwarfed by every other recruit. The other soldiers mock him, yet Steve shows cleverness and heart where others fail. During a flagpole challenge, he doesn't climb, he simply pulls the pin and drops the flag, outsmarting them all. And when Colonel Phillips tosses a dummy grenade, the platoon scatters. Steve alone throws himself on it, ready to sacrifice his life for strangers. These acts convince both Phillips and Agent Peggy Carter that this scrawny kid might just be the perfect candidate. Erskine explains the stakes. The super soldier's serum magnifies everything inside a man. Good becomes great, but bad becomes worse. He warns Steve about Schmidt, a man whose lust for power turned him into something monstrous. That night, Erskine tells Steve, "Whatever happens tomorrow, promise me you will stay who you are. Not a perfect soldier, but a good man." The next day, Steve steps into a hidden lab. With Howard Stark managing the machinery and Peggy by his side, Steve climbs into the steel pod. The process begins serum injections, blasts of Vita rays, his body writhes in pain. But Steve doesn't give up. He yells through the agony, "I can do this." At last, the pod opens, and the scrawny kid has become the world's first super soldier. But celebration turns to chaos. A Hydra spy detonates explosives, kills Erskine, and escapes with a vial of the serum. In his new body, Steve leaps into action, sprinting faster than cars, diving into the harbor, and wrestling the assassin in a submarine. Before Steve can interrogate him, the spy swallows cyanide, leaving only 2 chilling words: "Hail Hydra." With Erskine dead and the formula lost, Steve becomes a living symbol rather than a weapon. The government dresses him in red, white, and blue, touring America as Captain America, selling war bonds and boosting morale. But when he performs for soldiers on the front lines in Italy, they mock him. Steve realizes he wasn't made to sell posters, he was made to fight. The turning point comes when he learns that Bucky's unit has been captured by Hydra. Against orders, Steve suits up and with Peggy's help and Stark's gadgets, parachutes behind enemy lines. Alone, he storms Hydra's base. Freeing hundreds of prisoners. The soldiers rally behind him, and in the chaos, Steve finds Bucky bruised, but alive. But the rescue mission also brings Steve face to face with Schmidt. In a chilling reveal, Schmidt tears away his human disguise to show his true self, the Red Skull. His face, deformed by the serum, is a crimson skull, a monster made flesh. He escapes, but Steve's daring mission cements his place as a true hero. Now embraced as a leader, Steve forms an elite team and begins striking Hydra bases across Europe. Armed with his indestructible vibranium shield tested by Peggy herself with live gunfire, Steve and his men cut deep into Hydra's forces. But tragedy strikes on a snowy mission aboard a moving train. In the heat of battle, Bucky is thrown from the carriage into the icy abyss below. Steve is shattered, but the fight must go on. Capturing Zola gives them intelligence. Red Skull plans to launch a massive assault using planes loaded with Tesseract-powered bombs, each targeting a different American city. The final battle begins. Steve rides alone into Hydra's fortress, plowing through enemies on his motorbike, shield flashing against flamethrowers and rifles. Eventually captured, he comes face to face with Red Skull again. Just when all seems lost, Steve's team bursts in, turning the tide. Red Skull flees aboard a massive warplane, bound for New York. With no time to waste, Steve chases him onto the aircraft. Inside, he discovers smaller bombers labeled with city names: Chicago, Washington, New York. He fights Hydra soldiers, ejecting bombers midair, until it comes down to him and Red Skull. Their brutal fight ends when the Tesseract's containment fails. Red Skull seizes it with his bare hands and is consumed, disintegrated in a flash of cosmic light, pulled into the unknown. Now Steve faces an impossible choice. The aircraft is loaded with explosives, and it's locked on a course for New York. With Peggy's voice on the radio, Steve calmly makes his decision. He steers the plane into the icy Atlantic, sacrificing himself to save millions. His final words to Peggy are heartbreaking. They make a date for the following Saturday, a dance that will never happen. The world celebrates Captain America as a fallen hero. The Tesseract is recovered, but Steve Rogers is lost beneath the ice. Decades later, he awakens in a strange recovery room. A radio plays a baseball game, but Steve remembers being at that very game in 1941. Something's wrong. He breaks out, stumbling into the neon lights of modern New York. Agents surround him. And then comes Nick Fury, telling him the truth. Steve Rogers has been asleep for nearly 70 years. The realization hits him hardest not because he lost time, but because he missed his date with Peggy. The legend of Captain America had only just begun.